has seen a reduction in foreign aid following the suspension of the European Union financial assistance to the West African state. That is all set to change as the EU recently lifted that embargo with its provision of more than €140 million to prop up Guinea's ailing infrastructure. We have details in this report.
Decision to send €140 million in aid to Guinea for infrastructure development is just the shot in the arm the country needed. For 5 years, the aid embargo prevented Conakry from maintaining its fragile networks. The lion's share of this aid, a full €83 million, will go to building roads. Vast productive regions of Guinea remain isolated. The new government says opening them up to the rest of the country is a priority.
The government has the obligation to invest in and carry out basic infrastructure. These are reliable road networks and the electric power necessary for production, as well as support for the agricultural, sanitary, and scholastic sectors.
This aid marks the European Union's return and comes 4 months after Guinea's contested legislative elections. Elections Brussels hailed as a major step forward and a precondition for any new aid.
With the end of the transition, which culminated in the legislative elections, we have signed on for a total renewal with the European Union.
EU cooperation with Guinea was blocked in December 2008 when Captain Moussa Dadis Camara pulled a coup d'etat and dissolved parliament. Hundreds of Guineans died in pro-democracy protests. The renewed aid is also a political boost for President Alpha Condé, with just 1.5 years to go until the next election.
Returnees from Burundi inter-ethnic war of the 1990s are having trouble finding permanent homes. Hundreds of thousands of Hutu refugees who fled their homes during the height of the war are now hoping to reclaim their former homes. Authorities in Bujumbura have instituted a commission to redistribute land in the country. We have details in this report by CFI.
Are being revived in Burundi over land conflict involving returning refugees. Elias Misago was from Rumonge. Like hundreds of thousands of Hutus, he fled Burundi's inter-ethnic war in 1972. He returned to his country in 2002 only to find another family occupying his land. Elias has only just been able to get back his plot with the help of a special commission.
We are very grateful to the Commission because it did its work. It conducted many investigations. We are very happy that our rights have been restored.
Not everyone is happy with the Commission's role as arbitrator. Anicet Rusintago is bitter. He was obliged to give back the land he occupied since 1972. He says the plot was legally redistributed to him by the government in place at the time.
You know, I lived here for 35 years. I cultivated the land. I planted everything because there was nothing here, just a wasteland. Then one day the commission came with a man who claimed that this land belonged to him.
Anicet had a choice, either buy the land, exchange it for another, or simply go away, leaving everything to the former owner. He decided to leave. He now ekes out a living in a small house with no land. Burundi's UPRONA party, the former single party associated with Tutsi minority rule, claims the commission, the CNTB, favors Hutus, the current president's ethnic group.
Chasing someone away from property they very legally acquired and installing someone else there is unjust and it's unacceptable. It could give rise to other conflicts.
The chairman of the CNTB says he's determined to restore the rights of all those who fled and who were dispossessed of their land. He also maintains that the former single party wants to perpetuate the situation to the detriment of national reconciliation.
The Hutus and the Tutsis will continue to live together in peace, despite the homicidal plans of a small number of people who want to defend the benefits they acquired over the long period of depredation, dispossession, and violence because it profited them.
The dispute could potentially revive dormant interethnic clashes. There are over 10,000 cases of land conflict that are awaiting settlement. The issue is a highly sensitive one in this poor and very agrarian nation where land is a rare and precious commodity.
It's streaming into Sochi as the city gets ready to kick off the Winter Games in just 3 days' time. Now the Russian President Vladimir Putin is also there to attend several IOC events. He has staked his reputation on the games and he is keen to see them go off without a hitch. But there are concerns that the city may not be quite ready, with rush to get some hotel rooms open for business and security concern still loom large. Militants from the volatile North Caucasus region have threatened the games, and CNN senior international correspondent Nick Bettin-Walls has uncovered a disturbing new trend among the so-called Black Widows.
Madina Alieva wanted to die the way both of her husbands had, in jihad. This is jihad. It's the highest thing in the world, she said in this address before she died. Who fulfills promises better than Allah? So many men are just talk and spend their time in cinemas or playing video games. Medina blew herself up in May last year near the police headquarters in Dagestan with over a dozen injured, ending her embrace of radicalism. Both her husbands were killed by special forces in sieges like this, the first when she was just 21. In this similar siege, her second husband and several other militants were also shot dead. Here she is, filmed by police coming out of the house. Medina, experts worry, is part of a new kind of so-called Black Widow female suicide bomber in Russia who don't, like in the past, decide to die out of grief and vengeance for a loved one. Instead, these women in the past few years marry jihadis and seek martyrdom on their own, as it seems fashionable.
It is a trend also. They have their own slang. It's young women, they oftentimes want to die because they want to die. I have seen these women after their husbands have been just killed, or there were funerals, and they don't mourn them. They congratulate each other.
Medina's mother, Patu, in her first interview with Medina's sister and orphan by her side, says police had ordered her daughter to see a psychologist, and 3 days before she died, Medina vanished.
She is probably in heaven. I saw her in my sleep. She was there with my grandparents. They were all together in beautiful white clothes, smiling. She told me how great it was there.
Medina's son thinks Mum is coming home.
He's always picking up photos of her, saying, "Mother is coming soon."
But she isn't. And with police putting up these wanted posters we saw across the region, it's clear they think Medina's not alone in seeking a nihilistic end to her life that takes many others with her.
Right back. And before we end this edition of the news, a quick reminder of the day's headline-making stories. The Vice President and Minister for Women's Affairs, Dr. Aïssatou Seydi, has held talks with the Executive Secretary of the Senegal-Gambia Permanent Secretariat. Agriculture Minister Solomon Owens has been talking about Africa's prospects of a continental agricultural revolution as the African Union declares 2014 as the year of agriculture and food security. The European Union has lifted its 5-year financial aid embargo on Guinea-Conakry with a massive €140 million aid meant to inject life into the country's infrastructure. And President Vladimir Putin has arrived in Sochi ahead of the opening ceremony of the Winter Games, but security issues continue to dominate the build-up to the Games. Well, that's all in this edition of the news. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back at 10 with another bulletin.